College Football 26 has dropped its second roster update in 2 weeks, so it is the perfect time to start a new dynasty. So in this video, we're going to go over 10 different teams you need to start a brand new dynasty with, and we're going to give the reasons why. If y'all enjoyed this style of content, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, drop any teams down below that should be rebuilt after the update. So this video will be time stamped, and the first section is going to be high tier. These are going to be your easier rebuilds, your good teams. Then we have mid tier, and then we have low tier. All the way to low tier is going to be your tough or more challenging rebuilds. And then with every single team, I give one idea for the rebuild. For example, I might say no recruiting in high school, or only transfers, or only high school recruiting, whatever, just to make the rebuild a little bit more challenging, because some of the rebuilds in this game can be easier. Now, if you just want to do the rebuild and not the challenge that I associate with it, hey, do whatever works for you, but I'm giving y'all the challenge so y'all can have it. The first team that's going to be on my high tier list, teams you should rebuild, it's going to be the Florida Gators. This is a team that fired their head coach mid-year because they're not having a good season, but this is still a very good roster. You have DJ Lagway, who could transfer out. His overall has decreased with these updates that we got, but he's still a phenomenal 5-star player with 98 throw power. Literally one of the most fun players to use in the whole entire game. You got 98 throw power, then you also get an 88 speed, 91 acceleration. You get in 6'3", 250. You're getting a big body. The accuracies could use some improvement, and then he also have great abilities to start off day one. And this is a guy if you could keep him from transferring, you could keep him on your roster for the next 2 years. So I love this rebuild right here. You also have Jaden at running back, and he's a sophomore, 87 overall. Like, this is a good team. And then also a lot of potential to recruit, but that's where the challenge come in. For this rebuild, you can only recruit the state of Florida. We got to put a challenge with it, man. This would be too easy of a rebuild. You can only recruit the state of Florida. You have some very good receivers. You have true freshman Brown here, who is already up to an 84 overall with the boost. Like I said, easier rebuild, but to make it challenging, only recruit the state of Florida. And when you bring in transfers, they got to be from Florida. You still will dominate. Still will probably bring in a top 20, 25 class, maybe even higher than that, recruiting Florida, but it'll make it a little bit more challenging. In real life, this team is 3-6, and there's really no excuse for that. When you see the roster, it's pretty good. Yes, you're in the SEC, so being a 89 overall, not that big of a deal when every other team is around that same exact overall. So any given Saturday in that SEC, but this is a team that could be very fun and still pose a little bit of a challenge as you only could recruit Florida. Today's video is sponsored by GrindLab. GrindLab is an AI-based company that is used to help you play College Football 26. From Dynasty Mode, where you could create a Dynasty tracker that you could add recruits, your players, and also ask the AI, hey, who should I recruit? What plays should I run? I have a bad team. What can I do to improve it? The guys over at GrindLab have done a phenomenal job of continuing to improve the website. We have been working together for a couple months now, so really shout out to them boys. We still have our Dynasty tracker from last video, and you could go in here, change the roster. You could also ask the AI to reevaluate your roster. You could add in recruits, and you could ask the CPU, hey, who should I recruit and why? And then on the right side of the screen, you have the AI sideline support, where you could ask questions that you need answering live, and it will help you with your dynasty recruiting, gameplay, calling plays, whatever you need. And big shout out to GrindLabs once again, first sponsor of the channel. We've been working together for a little minute now, so check them out. It's gonna be the first link down in the description. Give them a look, go through the website. It's gonna be something on there that probably could help you with dynasty or maybe even your online gameplay. Next, we're going with another 3-6 team that also fired their head coach and also have a pretty good quarterback of the future with the program, and that's going to be UCLA and Nico, who should be on the roster for the remaining of the rebuild when you take over, and he's a pretty good player, man. They did drop his overall a little bit. He's down to an 85 before the boost, but another fun player to use in gameplay. And I actually did a UCLA rebuild as a live stream series. with Nico, and it's pretty fun. Like, you could bring in a pretty good class. And I did transfer portal only for this rebuild, and that's the challenge I'm giving y'all. Transfer portal only, and then also win the national championship within 3 years of taking over the program. Another suggestion, when you take over these programs, I suggest y'all force the wins of the regular season. Like, whatever the record is of the team, so this team is 3-6. So you force this team to go 3-6, and then you take over the team from that point. That would be my suggestion. Or you could just take over in the offseason. You want to just sim the whole entire offseason and just take over from then. Either one makes sense, but that's my suggestion for all of these rebuilds I'm giving y'all. But UCLA, transfer portal only. You already got the quarterback of the future, and then you got a few backups behind them also. Overall, pretty okay roster. And then also on the younger side, you got some running backs here that's all on the younger side as well. You got some receivers also that's younger. Rico, he won the Heisman in one of my dynasties. Yes, he won the Heisman. He's only at 80 overall. He will continue to develop, and he could put up some crazy stat lines, and I've seen him go out and win the Heisman before. So this is a solid roster, but a team that's struggling in real life, and you could absolutely dominate the transfer portal, as UCLA have some pretty good pipelines. You know, they in my higher tier, and you might, they're not a higher tier rebuild, but when you're doing transfer portal only, you could flip a roster so easily. So that's why they're in the higher tier, and the higher tier is just easier rebuilds, in my opinion. And come on, man, you have a 99 speed corner, bump and run guy, 99 speed and acceleration, and he's a redshirt sophomore. Man, I know y'all love speed. You got some players on this roster. Don't sleep on it. My last higher tier rebuild is going to be South Carolina. And the reason I really put these boys in this video, because this might be one of the easiest rebuilds out there. Like, when you look at the roster, it literally might be one of the easiest rebuilds, but some people enjoy like taking over a team that really has a future set up. They're just not good right now. They're just not having a good season. They're having a super underwhelming season. Entering the year, they was a ranked team, and they're just underperforming. Lenore Sellers also underperforming as well, but a super fun quarterback to use. And once again, he has great abilities, also 89 speed with the 92 acceleration, 97 throw power. He also have very solid accuracies that could continue to improve with the star development. Sophomore player, and he's not going to transfer. He cares about conference prestige. That's one thing you're going to see. In my notes, I wrote, this may be the youngest team with the most potential. A couple other teams we're going to talk about on this list, they are good right now, but they have so many aging guys or seniors, juniors, so many guys that's graduating that their roster is going to look vastly different over the next 2 years. This team, and a lot of these guys won't even transfer because we got lucky, or you get lucky with the deal breakers. So Lenore Sellers, great player, sophomore, he's not transferring out. You have running back is going to be a situation you will have to figure out for the next couple years. Isaiah here, who was a transfer from Colorado, actually, I don't really see why he transferred to, the Gamecocks to be the third string. He was a starting running back at Colorado, but I think he got a bag to go to South Carolina. So he's on his roster, and he could be your guy next year, but he do care about playing time. So maybe he does transfer out the game. He's super janky. Even though you got two seniors above you, he still might transfer out for playing time, even though he would take over his senior year. But when you look at the receiving room, you have Nicholas Harbor, the 99 speed, 6'5", 235 pounder. You know about Nick Harbor if you ever played this game. You have that guy on your roster, and look at the freshman receivers you have behind you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, one of these guys bound to have star impact development or star elite development, right? Oh, they all have impact, but no, one do have star here. You're going to have some young receivers that's pretty solid. Like, these guys are, coming in with good overalls, like 74, 73, all of that is good for a freshman. They're going to develop. And then you also have a sophomore right here. Like, you're going to be good at the receiver room. You also have a young tight end who has star development. Sophomore, 83 overall already. O-line, also all on the younger end, in my opinion. Left tackle, 77 overall, star development, sophomore. Star development left guard, sophomore. Junior center, sophomore. Right guard, junior. Like, you're literally returning your whole entire offensive line. You're returning your quarterback, your wide receiver room, and you're returning, the best defensive player on the best team player on your whole entire team. And Dylan Stewart, they brought in some very good recruiting classes over the last couple years, man. Shout out to South Carolina, what they got going on. Just having an underwhelming year, but Dylan Stewart, had a great freshman year, doing this thing this year as well. Another guy that's going to return, star D tackle, returning. Like, you kind of get the drift here. All of your linebackers returning. None of them are high in overall, but they're all returning. Whole entire cornerback room returning. Safety, you will lose your starting safety, but you got a young guy behind them, or a junior, I should say. That would be a senior. He'll be behind them, and then you're returning, your star safety as well. So you kind of see this whole entire roster is set up for the next couple years, in my opinion. So really an easier rebuild. Now, what's the challenge for this rebuild? Because, what's the challenge? What I'm going to say is play the moments. The moment's going to sell you. That's going to humble you. Play the moments for this rebuild. Or if you don't want to do that, if you want to play every single second of the game, use very, very hard sliders. Use difficult sliders to make this rebuild even more challenging. Or play the moments, because like I said, the moments will humble you and will sell you. We all been there. The next rebuild is honestly maybe not even a rebuild, because this is a 7-2 team. But the challenge for this USC team, move them to the SEC or the ACC. That's what you're going to do when you take over this team. You're going to move them to a tougher conference. This is a fun roster, man. This is a fun roster. Byron Brown is a super fun quarterback. I'm interested to see what he does at the next level. But we just talked about a South Carolina team that has a lot of young players, that's returning, that's set up for a rebuild for the next couple years. This USF team is the opposite. They have a lot of older players, and they're not set up for the next upcoming years. They're set up to win right now. So I'm suggesting move them to a tougher conference and, enjoy the first season when you got Byron Brown and the guys. But after that, you're going to be in some trouble, because you're just going to have to bring in guys. You're just going to bring in guys for a rebuild. So I say move them to a tougher conference. Enjoy this year one. You look at the roster, running backs, 2 seniors. You do have a sophomore here. Receiver room, you got some juniors as your top 2 guys, so you do return that. A tight end, he will return. Your whole entire O-line, gone. Whole entire O-line, gone. You return the 72 overall right guard. The rest of the O-line, gone. And they're pretty solid to be, in the American Conference. Whole entire D-line, also gone. Gone. Whole entire D-line, man. You're going to be left with a 76 overall as your starting right guard, or right end. You're going to have to bring somebody in. This is just a tougher rebuild, man. Whole entire linebacker room, gone. All of the good players are gone. You're left with 60 overalls and 70 overalls as your best linebackers. Obviously, those guys will develop a little bit, but it's not great. Cornerback room, gone. All of the good players. You return a 77 overall junior who's going to be a senior next year. Come on, man. This is not a great situation. Safety room, gone. You see what you're working with here. I enjoy this rebuild. I enjoy a rebuild like this because you're like, oh, USF, they're balling. They're having a great year, which they are. Have a great quarterback. They don't have nothing behind it. They just don't. They don't have much behind that roster after this year. So that was my first mid-tier team. Let's get into my second. Colorado is going to be my second mid-tier team. And for similar reasons, Dion and them boys are struggling, man, are struggling. I was hoping for a little bit of a better year, but it was understandable. They lost everything. You lost, they had four receivers get drafted this past draft, including Travis Hunter. You had a quarterback get drafted, Shedeur Sanders. You lost everything. Whole entire, 4 new starting offensive linemen outside of Jordan Seaton. You lose everything last year. This year, struggling tremendously. Caden Salter's bench, struggling, didn't have the season he wanted to, and now Julian Lewis is taking over. The issue with Julian, sometimes he will transfer. If you're able to keep Julian on the roster, you're good. Now, the challenge for this rebuild, the reason this rebuild is in the mid-tier is because you cannot touch the transfer portal, man. You're taking over for Dion. You're making your own head coach. Dion is out the door in this situation. You're taking over for him, and you cannot touch the transfer portal. We've seen how this roster looks when it's getting flipped in the portal every year, and it's not working right now. Hopefully, I hope it does work in real life. Next year, I hope they ball out. I hope it does work out. But right now, it's not working. So you're taking over the team, and you're doing the opposite. Only could recruit high school. So this is going to be a rebuild that's going to take a little bit longer, because usually you could dominate the portal and, flip a team so easily. No, you have to build through high school, and it's going to take you some time. And you better hope Julian Lewis stays right there. Ryan Stubb is also solid, so maybe he's a guy for you. But Julian Lewis, you got to hope he's the future, 5-star quarterback, 79 overall, all of that stuff. You do have Michael Welsh, who is a solid running back, 83 overall. You do have some guys on this roster, but you'll quickly see you have some older guys as well. Receiver situation, pretty darn good. Omarion Miller, I personally think he should be like an 84, 85 overall, but that's another story. But you do have Draylon Miller. You got some solid receiver play here. You also have Furkan here, who is a freshman receiver, 75 overall. You also got Quentin Gibson, another freshman. Like, you have some Cam McHale, 96 speed. Like, you have some stuff on this roster, and at like the skill positions. Tight end is going to be a position you'll have to figure out moving forward. O-line, Jordan Seaton, he's as much as gone. He just transfers out every single class. You have no chance to keep him. You just don't. You're losing your best player in the portal, and you can't bring anyone else back in the portal. But the rest of your O-line, older. Your whole O-line will be different next year, because Jordan's going to transfer, and then the rest of these guys are seniors. So you're looking at 5 new starters when you take over this roster, and this might be a rebuild you just take over in the offseason. Unfortunately, you can't bring in any transfers, so you just got to sim to the following year pretty much. Your whole entire D-line, except for Sam, he might transfer out, we'll see. But this is a solid, fun type rebuild, but I think it definitely brings in a lot of challenges, because they invest so heavily in the portal that they're usually bringing in older guys. So, and you just can't do that anymore. So I think it's a fun rebuild. Let me know if y'all going to give it a try. This is a rebuild I personally want to try. We'll see it in a live streaming series. Next, let's go with a 3-7 program that have top 15 pipelines in this game. So this is a team that can absolutely dominate recruiting Stanford. Now, the restriction, you can only recruit West Coast. Like I said, top 5 pipelines. That's not that big of a restriction, because the West Coast pipelines are amazing. This is a team that's, I feel like, just slept on, because they do have those great pipelines, man. They really do in this game, because they're in a pretty solid location. Now, the roster is in an interesting spot. You have Elijah Brown, who I probably would start day one, being honest. And he's a pretty good quarterback, pocket passer. Wish the throw power maybe was a little bit higher, but the accuracies are pretty solid for a true freshman quarterback. And he also have the ratings or the skill caps to match it, so he could become a pretty solid player overall. So you're kind of set up with the quarterback position. Now, the rest of the roster, you also kind of set up with running back moving forward. You have Ford here, who's at 84 overall, pretty good. But the rest of the roster is just not all that good. And I want to show you the website. So, this is a college football website where you can check all of the guys' ratings and see everyone overall that moved. And I noticed something's inaccurate here. So, Ford is up to an 84 overall, and that's accurate on the game. Come over here to the game. He's an 84 overall, right? Okay, makes sense. But this right tackle, he's up to an 82 overall. That's +8. He got +8, which is a great boost for a right tackle, right? Now, come to the game, he's only a 79 overall. Right? I'm just noticing some of the stuff is inaccurate, and I wonder, I don't know why. I really don't, but I noticed that a few times where a few players, the game says this, but or the website says this, but the game, he just didn't get to that overall on the game. And I wonder if it has something to do with his archetype. Maybe he's not supposed to be a raw strength archetype, and if he was, let's say, a pass blocker, he would actually be that correct overall where the game has, or where the website has him at 82. That's the only thing I can really think of. But we could look at, the receiver here that's at an 81 overall, CJ Williams, come back over to the game, he's at 81 overall. So, some players are accurate, some players are not accurate, Not the end of the world, but just something I noticed and thought I'll share with y'all. And if y'all notice anything else like that, let me know down below. But the rest of this roster, just an older roster that's also not super talented, but you could change that with recruiting. It's just going to take you a little bit, man. So only could recruit West Coast, and when you're bringing in transfers, they got to be from the West Coast as well, man. You have a star corner. Well, he's gone out the door. At least you have a bunch of younger guys behind them. And, yeah, it's kind of what the whole roster look like. This is going to be my last mid-tier rebuild. And let's hop into that low tier. Next, let's talk about Bill O'Brien, Boston College. Maybe the worst, power forward team out there. They're 1-9, man. And looking at the rest of their schedule, they could go 1-11. They could legit go 1-11, man. This is a team that is not very good right now here, man. Let's look. 1-9, and you look at the rest of their schedule, and they only beat Fordham, who is a small program in New York. And they got Georgia Tech lost, and they got Syracuse. I'm taking Fran Brown in that. This team could legit go 1-11, man. What does that mean for Bill O'Brien? That's another story. But I mean, only one close game, and that was against Michigan State week 2. And every other game, I mean, we're not even getting close. So this is not a great roster. This is not a great roster, but I will say it's young. It's on the younger side. We'll see how many guys transfer out once you make this team go, 1-11, like they probably gonna go in real life. But you do have a younger quarterback, Dillon. He's an 80 overall. His throw accuracies are pretty solid. He's a backfield creator archetype. You look at his skill caps, and they're solid. He get a lot better as a player. So you do have a young roster overall. Your running back, also young, 86 overall with that boost, sophomore. And then your receiver situation. Outside of the star guy, you have returning players, which is pretty solid. Then your tight end, you have a senior, but behind that, you have a couple solid younger guys that will be back on the roster. 85 overall junior, left tackle. You have a senior, 92 overall, but behind them, you have a sophomore who's an 81 overall with the boost. And then your center is going to be a senior, but you do have a freshman who's similar in overall, sophomore right guard, and then a senior on the right tackle. Overall, the roster is pretty young. Why does it start me all the way to the right? And I got scrolled to the left. What are we doing here? Like, what are we doing? I got to keep scrolling over to see the guy, to see the guys' names. But D tackles here is not a great situation. You have a lot of guys similar in overall, and then also seniors. But you kind of see the rest of the roster here. I think it's a pretty challenging rebuild. Why we have so many freshman safeties? That's crazy. But still gonna be a pretty challenging rebuild. Now, the challenge I'm gonna give to you guys for Boston College, since I consider this a younger team, you do have KP Price here at safety, who is a very good safety, and he's a junior. He'll return for his senior year. You keep the roster young, and you only recruit high school. No portal. Yep, no portal. So the rebuild would just take a little bit longer to complete, because you're not able just to flip it all in 1 year like you could do with, any other team. So no portal, only high school recruiting for this Boston College team. And let's hop into the next low tier rebuild. Let's stay in Massachusetts and go with maybe the worst team in all of college football. You got the worst, maybe Power 4 team. And you also got maybe the worst team, UMass. They're 0-9. They have not got a win, and will they win a game? I don't know. I don't know. They have Northern Illinois, Ohio, and Bowling Green. Yeah, not ideal. Not ideal for them boys. 0-9. Now, for this rebuild, the challenge, they're already bad. Move them to the Big Ten. That's what you're doing. Move them to the Big Ten. This is an 0-9 team in the MAC conference. You move them to the Big Ten this following year. You take them over and you rebuild them. The whole thing with these lower tier rebuilds, this section is supposed to be more challenging. So we're going to make it more challenging. Now, you do have AJ, who could take over at quarterback. He's a freshman dual threat quarterback. The accuracies are going to be brutal to start off. He's a 2-star player, but he could get much more accurate. He get a lot better overall for a 2-star freshman. And he's pretty solid. And the rest of the roster, not so much. You do have a 76 overall freshman running back who you should start day one. He should be a day one starter for you so he don't transfer out. The rest of the roster is just not going to be much talent. You do have a 72 overall freshman as well. Tight ends, a lot of similar overalls and ages. O-line is also going to be in a rough spot. You know, you see the team overall 66 and you move that to the Big Ten, you're in some trouble. Now, as far as flipping this team with, transfer portal, I would encourage that. I would encourage you to bring in a pretty solid transfer portal class. And you could probably get this team up to around a 70, 80 overall, maybe even up to like an 83 if you bring in an excellent transfer portal class. So I would suggest doing that, especially since you're moving them to a tough conference. But overall, roster in a bad spot. But I think it could be a fun, challenging rebuild. I think you could go win a national championship in 3 to 5 years if you take over this team and pretty much do the right method with the portal. Next, let's take over the best 5-5 team in maybe all the nation. That's going to be Mississippi State. This is just a roster, a team that could be, could have 7 wins, could have 8 wins. Let's look at what they've done this season. So non-conference, sweep, even beating a pretty solid Arizona State team, even though they're having not a great year. But could have beat Tennessee, close game, get blown out to Texas A&M, but A&M is a, undefeated SEC team right now. Florida, another game they could have won. Texas, they should have won that Texas game. They should have won that, in my opinion. They beat Arkansas, and then they got blown out to Georgia. But we talking about maybe, 3 games that's a 1-score game where you do a couple of things different, and you could have 8 wins and maybe even be ranked. If they beat Tennessee, Florida, and Texas, they're a ranked team. But, that's a lot of things that would have had to win different. That's why they're still on this list to be rebuilt. Mississippi State is a team that's usually not very good in the SEC. The challenge with this one, you have 3 years to win a national championship. We put a time goal on this. This is a team that's 5-5. This is a team that has, potential, in my opinion. You have 3 years to go get it done. Whether you do that in the portal, high school, however, you got 3 years to get it done. Your quarterback, Blake, will be gone after this year. You have Luke. Oh, he could be good. What are these skill caps, man? Accuracy cooked. Oh, my goodness. Accuracy cooked, man. He's probably not the guy for you. You can never be a great quarterback throwing the football. So accuracy is absolutely horrible. So it's probably going to be Taylor here, who is a freshman, 87 overall. He's a pure running quarterback. Now, the thing about those guys, the accuracies are also pretty bad. 4-star player. And the accuracies can't improve too much. I mean, we're talking about 71 medium throw accuracy, and maybe it's maxing out at 81, maybe 83, somewhere in that range. But he'll never be a great thrower of the football. So you might have to go get a quarterback from the outside, or you could rock out with Taylor, who does come in with good speed and pretty solid throw power for a pure running quarterback. But you would had to have a specific type of offense. And he started with Magician, which is a pretty good ability for a quarterback. Now, you do have a good running back of the future as long as he does not transfer out. Elusive bruiser with shifty hit. Like, he has all the abilities, and he's an elusive bruiser, 5'10", 230. This would be my favorite running back to use in a dynasty, man. Just big body running back with shifty. That's a great running back in my opinion. Now, the rest of the roster, this is where, it's not all that good. You have a couple older receivers. You're going to have to reset the receiver room, quickly. You got to bring in freshmen because you have all upperclassmen in the receiver room but one guy. That's not ideal. That is less than ideal. Similar with the tight ends, you have a lot of upperclassmen in that tight end room. O-line going to need some work, especially playing in the SEC. Now, we didn't even talk about that. This is a team in the SEC, so they're 85 overall. But when every other team is, 85 to probably 95 overall, that's what leads to your team being, no conference wins, or they have one conference win, I should say, against Arkansas, but just not good enough in the SEC getting one conference win. But this is what the rest of the roster look like, man. I love it. And then also, you're going to lose Isaac Smith. He usually transfers out. We have Isaac in the Purdue series. He transferred to us. And he's a great safety. He got like 90 hit power, great box specialist safety, but you would not be able to retain him most likely, and he will transfer out. Fun rebuild. You got 3 years to win it all. You don't win it all in 3 years. You failed the challenge. Move on to the next one. Now, my last rebuild challenge for this video is going to be Georgia State. You could only recruit the state of Georgia. Plenty of talent, but you're Georgia State. You're maybe the worst school in the state, at least the worst school in the state that's in this video game. Not a good roster, Also, you just got to go up against the big dogs, man. You got to go up against Georgia for all the in-state talent, and then also all the other schools that dip in Georgia to take the talent from Georgia back to their state, whether that's Florida State, whether that's LSU, whether that's Alabama, whatever. So you can only recruit the state of Georgia, and it's going to be tough. It's going to be challenging, man. You could keep them in the Sun Belt Conference, or you could move them up to the Power 4 level. Either one could work. But a team that's struggling in real life, not a great roster, but could be a pretty fun rebuild that will create some different type of challenges, man. Different type of challenges. When we did the Florida rebuild earlier, we talked about that. The first rebuild we talked about, and you could only recruit the state of Florida. But Florida is the big dog in their state. They're not going to have a tough time bringing in a good class of 4-stars and 5-star players and 3-star players from Florida, because they have the great pipelines and the school grades to go get them guys. With this Georgia State team, you're going to struggle, man, and you need a right tackle. You need a right tackle bad. But try this rebuild. Please let me know y'all thoughts. Let me know any rebuilds down below that should be done. And then also, you got to get the restriction with it. If you don't get the restriction, I don't want to hear it, man. If y'all enjoyed this content, like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate y'all, boys. Check out the Twitch. We probably be live a few times this week, and we on to the next one.